Gwe, Ninuptuk, Ach Bajazi, Ach Welia Sikbul, Nindelusi Sagamal, Paul Prosper Delewin, Buckingham Mi'kmaq Nation. I am honored to be here on this host territory. I want to recognize Elder Gwendolyn Point, the host drum, those who have offered their guidance to this forum, to be respectful, to heed to the teachings of this land, and to the principle of healing. I also want to recognize the National Chief's comments in her opening address of love, which is something that I have been thinking about for some time. This morning on my way down here, in times like this, I offer tobacco in prayer to help me to find the words, to guide my words, to allow me to find a balance between my heart and my mind. Regional Chief Joanna Bernard will be providing a bit of a sequence to some of the events, but I will pick up a bit on some events before this AGA involving a court application brought forward by the National Chief regarding the decision we have made as an executive. And our decision is there in draft resolution number 3. It calls for a temporary suspension of the National Chief from her role as chairperson of the company, the National Indian Brotherhood. Also, her employment status with the National Indian Brotherhood, but also her role and function as National Chief. This was not an easy decision. It has been based on much discussion amongst our executive, many long days, many long nights. A lot of my colleagues, regional chiefs, have been dealing with a number of questions from you, leadership, and rightfully so. And so, when you look at these resolutions before you, there's a spectrum. On one side of the spectrum, you're going to see a resolution that seeks full reinstatement of the National Chief, the call for a forensic audit, the call for an investigation into the toxic work environment at the AFN. On the other side of the spectrum, you'll see a resolution for a vote of non-confidence. But there is a path, a middle path, which is our resolution, a resolution born from the many discussions and deliberations of my colleagues here, the Executive Committee. And that's draft resolution number 3. It is what we believe to be the middle ground. For you, as the chiefs in Assembly, to validate our decision to allow this temporary suspension of the National Chief to continue until we get the results of an investigation which is ongoing as we speak. We always look to the authority as the executive of the chiefs in assembly. It's outlined in the charter. We recognize that, but we had no alternative with the facts that were presented to us and with the advice we relied upon from our lawyers. We suggest that we follow this middle path. The decision is yours to make, and there will be much dialogue and discussion that will ensue from this event. There are a number of stories, a number of narratives that surround this investigation and suspension. And there is a truth to be had through the findings of the investigation. That will take time. That will take time for interviews with the complainants, interviews with the National Chief, interviews with the witnesses from a very trained and dedicated individual tasked with uncovering the truth. And with this truth, we can move forward. We can chart our path and deal with many of the immediate issues that we have faced upon us at this assembly here. My colleagues, as part of the executive, sit as a board within the company, the National Indian Brotherhood. As a board, we are under a sacred duty, a legal duty, to make decisions that are in the best interests of the company, to create and maintain a safe work environment, and to also express our faith and our belief and our trust in the many staff members who are part of that organization that are doing an exceptional job every day. I know these issues are tough. Within my own chief caucuses, with the chiefs within Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, people are torn, especially the women chiefs. They are torn with these events. And I really feel for them. I feel for everyone at this time. But there is a path forward. There is like a disruption in our family. And we need to take that pause to reset and regain our balance. Currently, we are in court proceedings. There was a court proceeding just before this AGA where an application was made by the National Chief for that court to reinstate her as National Chief. What we told the court was that decision does not rest with that judge within that courtroom. That decision rests with you. And that court agreed with us. We're going to be talking and you're going to be hearing about legal liabilities. Many of you have heard that term, liability and risk. And as a company, the National Indian Brotherhood, and as an association, the Assembly of First Nations, they face certain risks and liabilities, and they are mounting on us. There has been call for a forensic audit, and my colleagues are not opposed to a forensic audit. We welcome it if you welcome it. But we want to make you mindful of the fact of the financial history of the organization, of years of unmodified audits, and the need to just be mindful of the costs associated with that. But if you require it, we will address that. The other thing I want to mention is no organization is perfect. Not one. We all face our own unique challenges. And yes, as an organization, we can improve and we must improve. But I ask you, what would you do in light of this situation? What would you do if you sat, as many of you do, as a board member, faced with these challenges within your family? How would you address the issue? How would you approach it? And what do you expect as a board? I just want to mention that I have a tremendous respect and love for the National Chief. I remember when she was Regional Chief, I invited her to my territory, and she met with my chiefs. She talked to my chiefs, and there was a certain spirit I could feel in the air, a certain sense of hope, a certain sense of belonging, that things will change. And certainly during her tenure as National Chief, she did come to my territory, and we traveled together. And she's fearless. She has a deep and profound passion for change. I remember we would travel in my car, which wasn't the best. It was kind of a res bomb. But we would travel to these different communities, and she would talk to the members and to the leaders about a very important thing at the time, which is fishing and the moderate livelihood fishery. We went to different communities, and we went into the heart of the conflict to support Chief Mike Sack in Sauniaville. We went out on the waters with other leaders, and then she forgot her phone, and then she went back out on the waters, surrounded by DFO. We must find our path. As the National Chief mentioned, this idea of love must guide us. A speaker earlier talked about lateral kindness. We must look to that as well. And as the National Chief said earlier, we will be able to walk through this in a good way. The theme of this conference is walking the healing path. Within our many deliberations, I look to Regional Chief Antoine, who uses the analogy of a tree, and he says, although the branches grow out in many directions, we are all from the same root. My Grand Chief, and I want to recognize him, Grand Chief Norman Syllaboy, would remind me of the Mi'kmaq term, Don Wedibik Soltig. Where do we come from? What are your roots? A Grand Chief of long ago was asked that question, where are your roots? And his answer was, we sprouted like the grass from the ground. So with that, I just want to express to you that we will get through this. We will find our path, and we will use love to bring us into a better place. Thank you.